So Judge and I went back and forth on this, and I understand Josh's thoughts on it, right? Josh does not really want to make predictions now that the NBA season has already started. But I said, John's been my co-host here on Championship Rings. Obviously, the majority of the time here over the 2 years he's been doing this show. And I did not think it was fair for Josh not to give any predictions at all for the NBA season. And I do think that, we are only 8 games in. There are some surprises already, including the fact there's only two teams above 500 in the Eastern Conference, and one of them is our Cleveland Cavaliers. Who would have thought? And they're undefeated, by the way, along with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Um, but I wanted to throw my picks up on the screen, and again, let's disregard these first 8 games if you can. Take a look at this, seeds 1 through 8, and then I'll give you what I had for my conference final and NBA final. Where do you severely take issue with my East?
Milwaukee at 1. What? I'm sorry. Did Boston just? Did you just forget about the defending champs? Why?
So Jay would actually agree with me on this, which I was shocked. I thought he was going to roast me on it too. My biggest thought on that was I thought Boston, after winning the championship, did not think they were going to have the sense of urgency in the regular season. And I thought, for whatever reason, and I look stupid now for it, and I'll already admit it, I thought Giannis and Dame were coming back on a revenge tour.
No. Just no. Um, people are already talking about Giannis went out of Milwaukee.
I saw that again. There's a reason why I thought Boston would take the regular season a little bit more slowly. I didn't. The Cavs, their offense is way better than I thought it was going to be. I did not know how much change there was going to be with Kenny Atkinson. So there's a reason why I put them at 6 because I liked Orlando and Indiana projecting up more than Cleveland at the beginning of the year. Obviously, thankfully for that, I'm wrong. But that's my reasoning behind it. Philadelphia, I threw in there in Miami because they're two talented teams, but I don't trust either one of them, especially
Yeah,
Philly.
I I get what you're saying with Indiana. I'd put them a little lower. I'd still keep them in the top 6 though. I I probably would flip Indiana and Cleveland. Um, because I don't think the Cavs are going to finish 1 or 2. I know we've gotten out to an 8-0 start. I think eventually we will fall back a little bit. I could see our first loss if we get past Wednesday's game against New Orleans. I think our first loss could be on Friday when Steph comes to town. Um, Especially because that's the first night of a back-to-back because we play Brooklyn on Saturday and then play Chicago, Philly, Chicago, and then I think it's Charlotte.
By the way, is Steph even bad? Because his
Yeah,
ankle's been hurt. I didn't think he
yeah,
was playing.
yep. He came back last night against
Okay.
Washington. So he'll most likely be in the game tomorrow against Boston, which we're going to get to that game shortly because we definitely have to talk about that. But in terms of who you have making the playoffs, I don't disagree. I would just have Boston at 1. I don't think New York ends up as the 2 seed. I I question while I like what they did in terms of Cat and Mikal Bridges offensively, I think they lost a little bit defensively. So in terms of Randall and DiVincenzo, sure DiVincenzo isn't as much of a two-way player, but he still brought that defensive mentality, I would say. So I think that's going to be a big loss for New York. Um, yeah. So I would say probably Boston at 1. I'm gonna go. I want to put Orlando 2, but I can't because of the Bancaro injury. So I'll keep New York at 2. I'll put Cleveland at 3. I'll put Milwaukee 4, Indiana 5, or I'll say Philadelphia at 6, in Orlando 7, Miami 8.
Okay, but you agree with the 8 teams I have up there. You wouldn't swap any of them out.
No, I don't like if there's going to be a team that could maybe sneak in there. I don't know. Who's a team outside of these
Like
8?
maybe Chicago, maybe.
Yeah, but
Again, I didn't do the play-in tournament. You know my feelings on the play-in tournament. I hate it. I can't stand it. So I just did the regular 8 seeds.
that's fine.
Like
But,
Chicago's a play-in tournament team to me. So
like, I look at your 8 teams, I'm like, who can really challenge these 8? Like, Charlotte? No. Brooklyn? No.
Detroit, no.
Detroit, I think, is going to be a little bit better than people think, but not enough to challenge any of these 8. I like the pieces the Pistons have, though, with Jaden Ivey and Kate Cunningham. But
okay. So I will tell you real quick before we go to the West. My Eastern Conference Final with a 3-seed Boston Celtic team hosting the 5-seed Orlando Magic. And I had Boston getting out of the East. And for the record, I had Miami for the second straight year upsetting Milwaukee in the first round.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you about Orlando, but just because of the Banchero injury, it's going to be hard for them to overcome that because they're.
Well, he's going to be back by Christmas. I mean, you act like he's out for the whole year.
No, I know, but like that's a long time for them.
6 weeks. I mean, if they can go 500 ball, they'll be okay in what seems to be a down East so far.
Yeah.
Okay, let's flip to the West.
Go, because this is super interesting.
Okay, so you can make an argument for other teams in the West. I mean, I was like, I could choose 10 other teams basically here. That was just sort of my gut feeling on. I went with younger teams more so than veteran teams. Like I couldn't leave LeBron completely out. I didn't really want to leave Phoenix completely out with their talent. Like I don't have New Orleans on there. You can make an argument for. I don't have Sacramento on there. You can make an argument for. I will not hear the Golden State argument. I think Golden State's done. I think the dynasty is over.
Like even with the strong start they're off to with
they may be the 10th seed. I don't think that they're that good at all. I really don't.
So you still think Denver's going to be a solid team?
Boy, Russell Westbrook had me questioning that. But yeah, like they're not as good as I thought they were going to be. I was on here telling you they're going to be the next dynasty, and I'm completely off that train. They're not going to be the Denver that I thought they should be. And part of that is front office moves and then losing bench pieces and Jamal Murray not knowing if he's going to be healthy for the whole year. I will say this. I think people are forgetting about the Memphis Grizzlies. I think Zach Edey is going to have a big year along with John Moran. I think people forgot Memphis was the 2 seed a couple years ago. And I think Houston is going to be like the Oklahoma City of this year, who we all, everybody thought was going to be a play-in team, and then all of a sudden they rose up to be one of the top seeds. I think the Rockets are that team this year. Jalen Green, Sengun, Ime Udoka, the former Celtics coach, their head coach. I really like what they're doing there in Houston.
Yeah. I think you have Houston just a little high right now. I would definitely keep them in the top 6, but for right now, I would flip Houston and Dallas. I would still keep Houston in that top 6, though. I would put OKC at 1, like you have it. I would have. I agree with your top 2. Then at number 3, I would go Dallas. At number 4, that's where I'm going to. At number 4, that's where I'm putting Houston. Number 3, I'm going Dallas. Number 4, I'm going Houston. 5, Denver. 6, Memphis.
Can I just say I love watching you do this in real time and you using your brain to actually think. It's actually fun. I threw the Lakers in there just because it's LeBron and AD. Like, I think they can make the playoffs. I don't think they beat Oklahoma City or a Minnesota in a first round matchup, but that's the way it would go. But just put them in there because I don't buy the Clippers at all. I think the Clippers are going towards a total rebuild. By the way, Kawhi Leonard's already not playing. They don't got Paul George anymore. Um, I think that franchise is just uh, a disaster, quite frankly. And there's a reason why Paul George left.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
but like, okay, so in the West, I kind of had the complete opposite of the East. I actually went chalk in the West. I had Oklahoma City and Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. I think that series could go seven, and I will give the edge to who I believe will be this year's regular season MVP, which will be SGA out of Oklahoma City.
who should have won MVP last season, but
So I have Oklahoma City and Boston in the finals, and I did pick Oklahoma City to win their first championship in franchise history for Boston to not repeat.
that would be a fantastic NBA Finals. Um, and I could definitely see it happening without a doubt. Um, I would also go with Oklahoma City just because I don't know if Minnesota has enough shooting around the their new big man set of Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert. I know they got Dante DiVincenzo as part of that trade, but I just don't know if they have enough shooters to surround Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. That's
Is Reed going to be that guy again that can't miss a shot?
right. That's my biggest question. Um, so I would go with Oklahoma City. In terms of the East, I mean, as until somebody knocks them off, it has to be the Celtics, I feel like.
So all three of us had, including Jalen, had an Oklahoma City Boston finals.
Which I want to say Oklahoma City, but because I'm a little bit spiteful about them still stealing Seattle, I'm going to say the Boston Celtics repeat.
And out of the three of us, you were the only one that picked Boston. And by the way, Boston still has those eight great shooters. That I mean, I love Boston's philosophy, and Cleveland's starting to do it, which is why I think the Cavs might actually be for real. We're going to shoot threes and layups, and we're going to shoot more threes than twos because we can make more threes than you can.
Yes.
Is that not the new NBA? I mean, nobody could beat when Porzingis was hot. Boston was unbeatable. You couldn't beat him.
No. So Dallas is interesting. I want to talk about the Mavericks for just a second.
So the reason why I had them at 6,
okay, I want to hear this.
I don't think Kyrie and Luka is sustainable. I don't think that is a regular season 82 game. They remind me of the Lakers. Remember when the Lakers made all those trades at the deadline and they were a 17? They ended up going to the Western Conference Finals and getting beat by Denver. And everybody was like, last year, yeah, the Lakers are going to come back. And then they just fall back down to earth. Yes. That's what I think Dallas is going to do.
I can understand your philosophy on that. The only reason I'm giving Dallas the edge over Houston right now is because while I understand what you're saying about the Rockets maybe being this year's version of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I still think the Rockets are like a year or two away just because they're still a very young team.
Well, so was Oklahoma City's the youngest team in basketball, and they were the 1 seed last year, and they still are.
Yeah. I would say Oklahoma City, yes, they're a young team, but they play like veterans, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I could make the same case about Houston, though.
Oklahoma City has that playoff experience now. Houston doesn't, so that's why I would give them the edge. And that's part of the reason why I would give Dallas the edge, because, like, Kyrie and Luka, they have that year under their belts of playing with Derek Lively and some of the other guys, and they felt like Clay was the missing piece. I get it. He's not the same player he was prior to the surgeries. I understand that. But still, you want him to stand out there and just go bing, bing. He can do that.
I just don't think at a consistent rate anymore.
And I can understand your philosophy on that. I totally can.
All right, let's get into it because you wanted to talk about it. Celtics Warriors tomorrow.
Yes, both teams come into this game with one loss, which that adds a lot to it. This is a rematch of the 2022 NBA Finals where the Celtics were up 2-1, and then Golden State came back to win the series. But you know the story everybody's going to be talking about, which Jason Tatum seems to kind of be brushing it off. But do you remember what happened during the Paris Olympics? Jason Tatum basically got benched.
Yes.
And so, you don't think Jason Tatum has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder coming into this game tomorrow? Like, okay, I'm going to show Steve Kerr that he should have played me.
I don't think Jason Tatum has a chip on any shoulder. I don't think Jason Tatum has that dog in him.
Is that part of the reason why, going back to your predictions for a second, is that part of the reason why you have Boston as the 3 seed?
No, it's just I didn't think Boston would care about how to have the regular season games the way they did last year because they already won their title.
See, that's where I disagree with you a little bit because a lot of people are saying the Celtics got an easy road to the finals because
they did. Let's be honest, they did.
I'm not disagreeing, but like, I feel like the Celtics are going to use that as adversity, or not adversity.
They may just be too talented. I mean, as much as you like Indiana and, I like Orlando, Boston's got more talent than them. Listen, I think Jaylen Brown's got the dog in him. I think Drew Holiday's got the dog in him. I think they just got a lot of good players. I think in Golden State, congratulations. They got off to a good start. They're still a very old basketball team. And Steph Curry's already injured. I get he just came back, but we're, 6, 7, 8 games into the year already. He's already dealing with injuries, and he's not getting any older. And Draymond Green cannot score the ball. And Pods, I don't think, is, the second coming of Klay Thompson yet. I think this is sort of a, early in the year surprise factor of Golden State. Like, don't take us lightly, but I think they're going to slowly regress back down to the mean. Again, if they win tomorrow night or if Boston wins, you know how I feel about these November NBA games. I don't think they have a lot of stake because I think teams change significantly from the first part of the year to the next part of the season. I really think the way you could tell if an NBA team is for real or not, if Golden State is still in that number one-ish position on Christmas Day, I will sit here and say they are for real. I always thought that is your benchmark to see where your team really is at.
I understand that. But again, like, you've kind of written Golden State off. A lot of people have written Golden State off. If they can go into Boston and win without Klay Thompson, with Steph Curry, who has just come back from injury, like you mentioned, I won't say that's a statement win, but I would say it's a big win early in the season.
Well, I can tell you this. At their best, in my opinion, at their very best, they will not be better than Oklahoma City. They will not be better than Minnesota. I don't think they will be better than Houston because I think Houston would just outrun their old asses to the ground. Like we saw Houston do at the end of last year. Remember when Houston almost caught him in the play-in tournament?
Yes, I do.
So there's that. And I don't think they'd be better than Denver. And if Memphis is as good as I think, I don't know if they're better than Memphis or Dallas. So I think at best, they're a playing team.
Oh, I'm not saying the Warriors are going to be a playoff team. That's not what I'm trying to insinuate at all. Because I do think those 6 teams you mentioned are probably going to be the ones that go straight to the playoffs. But by the same token, this is Steph Curry. Like, we've seen him.
In my mind, when you're no longer a championship team, the dynasty's over. At the end of 2022, when they won the title, they should have blew it up there. The dynasty should have been over. They will never trade Steph, I don't think, because he is Golden State. Unless obviously he requests to trade, which I don't think he do. But unless they get a Giannis or somebody like that, the dynasty's over.
Yes, I would agree with you on that.